Howdy, folks. Good morning. We have got a really exciting one today. I'm super excited to show off all of the latest new features. January is always a good month for us, and this one was no exception. So super excited to walk through everything today. Also, this is in the mother of all untimely times to do a webinar. I don't think you can beat the morning of January 31st for bookkeepers, but I appreciate y'all all so much for taking the time. So as usual, we're going to give everyone a minute or two more to go ahead and pile in here, and then we'll go ahead and get started at 2 or 3 past the hour. Okay, Sabrina asked if I can poll how many people are going to be at BKX. So I'm not sure I know how to do that, although I'm definitely open to it. How about this? Sabrina, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the Facebook group, which may be slightly more representative and definitely will get more people. So I'm going to do that. But if you are going to BKX and you are also here on this chat, go ahead and pop into the webinar chat and let us know. All right. We're going to go ahead and get things started. So in case this is your first ever catch up with Keeper webinar, basically the way these work is we will start by walking through all of the new features that we shipped over the last month since our previous catch up with Keeper webinar. After that, if we have an app showcase, we will go through that. We do not have one this month. And then lastly, we will open things up to Q&A. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And one quick point of help, if you wouldn't mind, please ask your questions in the Q&A button, not in the chat. We will try to monitor the chat, but it's a lot easier if you just put them in the Q&A. Okay, so the first set of improvements we have starts here on the client list, and that is a lot more flexibility and a lot more higher level access that we've sort of infused into the client list. So getting started, the first thing you can do is you can now show or hide any columns here on the client list by clicking add, remove client properties. I guess we need to update that copy. So for example, you can now remove all of your task sections. And you can even remove any sort of client portal information. You can remove any close details. And so that way, if you wanted, you could truly have like all of your properties on here. And then you could have basically a CRM style view. So this would be just all of your client properties rather than your tasks. So just a lot more flexibility here on the client list. And speaking of flexibility, we also gave you another option in terms of how you might want to look at the progress of your close. And that is here with the close progress bar. So I'll take off a few of these properties so you can see that. And so this basically is a percentage indicator of how complete your closes are. So you can see these are 100% complete, 96, 90, and so on. So easier way sometimes than just seeing every single column broken down. Of course, less detail, which is both a pro and a con at times. And combining those two concepts, we also have a default saved view for you here called the simple view, which is just taking all of your closing task sections and hiding them, adding the close progress bar, and then otherwise this view is exactly the same. Okay, Moving on to the close itself, let's go ahead and pop into demo code. I want to start, given today is the 31st, I want to start with some improvements we've made to the Prepare 1099s report and to the associated vendor requests. First is, if you have a vendor request you need to make, you can now CC your client. So if you check this box here and then you add your request, the client will get CC'd on the email that goes out to your client. The reason we added this in is we were seeing some feedback from some customers that vendors were like, I'm not sure if this is real or if this is like a legitimate request. And so adding the client on CC both gives them visibility as well as adds a lot of legitimacy to the requests that you're making. In addition, we also added the ability to actually peek into more of the plumbing of the report and fine-tune things further. So if you see a transaction, for example, that should not actually be included in the calculation for what you should deliver as far as 1099s goes, you can click this excluded button here on the right. And then if you click that, it'll get excluded. And then when you rerun the report, that is going to actually lower that total. So now we can see ramp went down from around 48 to around 24. Of course, if you want to undo that, you can toggle over here to your all vendor transactions and then re-include it or unexclude it. Both of those seem a little inelegant to say, but nonetheless, that's what you're doing. So those are a couple of new updates for the Prepare 1099s report. Hopefully you will find those either valuable for the next, I don't know, call it 12 hours or for the next filing season. Okay, next series of improvements we've made on the close page is we added the ability to create custom saved search reports. So to do that, you go to your transaction review, click add report. And the keeper tasks, by the way, this is things like expenses and bills without attachments, transactions coded to parent accounts, things that we've made for you. Whereas if you click add new report, you can create your own custom report. So we can create something like, I don't know, non-Amazon office supplies. And so what we can do is we create a set of criteria for basically filtering the general ledger and showing a certain set of transactions. And so in this case, we're going to choose account or split as the first criteria base. One thing to note here, you are almost always going to want to choose account or split rather than account or rather than split. The reason for that is account will only pull from the account column. So if you see in Keeper, this is the account column. This is the split column. So most of the time, you're going to want to just search on both. There are cases where you might want to pick one or the other. It's sort of tied to the debit and credit values that transactions carry. But in any case, in this case, we are just going to want to choose account or split. And then we're going to choose office supplies here. And we can also use a vendor filter and say where the vendor is not Amazon. And once we save that, we'll have our new report here, non-Amazon office supplies. Open this up here, and these are our transactions that are not in Amazon, but are in office supplies. Okay, and on this note, one more cool thing that we just added in is the ability to click directly to a transaction in QuickBooks, or if you're in the beta, in Xero as well. And so what this means is if you click this date, the date is now blue, that means you can click it. If you click it, that's going to take you directly to that transaction in QuickBooks so that you can see things there, edit things here as well. And of course, all of these things are bidirectional. So changes here will push into Keeper and vice versa. Important thing to note, you can see here when we hover over this cell, it also opens this pop-over warning that says, make sure you're in the right file. That's because basically what we're doing here is we're going to the check with the transaction ID 2545, but that only works if you're in demo co here. So if we're in demo co and this is demo co, that's going to work. If you're in a different QuickBooks file, that's going to cause an issue. It's just going to go to transaction ID 2545. And if you're in a different file, that's a different transaction. Okay, and one more awesome change here on the close page is in the client uploads inbox. And that is we've made it a lot easier to move a transaction directly to an attach, like directly to, sorry, move a receipt, move an attachment directly as an attachment in QuickBooks as well. So previously you had to like move it to the transaction in Keeper and then go to that transaction and then upload it to QuickBooks. So we've sort of taken all of that and rolled it up into one. So we've got this invoice right here. And if we click move file, which we can now access directly from the invoice, we can move it to a transaction. Let's say it's this Descript transaction. If you click this button, it'll now upload that attachment directly to QuickBooks. All right. So that rounds up the last of the major changes here for the last month. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and turn my attention now to the Q&A. Okay, so Morgan asks, can you have a report for transactions that are missing class or locations, like the report for transactions with missing receipts? The answer to this is yes. The way that you turn on this report is you click this gear icon, and then you turn on class or location. If you turn on class or location, you'll actually get that report automatically added into your close for you. But if you don't see it in there, you can also add it in your transaction review as well. By clicking add report and then adding the keeper task. So in this case, we can actually see, because I've turned off class, you see class has been disabled here, but you can see there is a report for transactions without class and transactions without location. Renee asked if it is a sticky view. I assume this refers to the simple view. The answer is yes. So if you switch over to your simple view and then you close out a keeper and you go back to keeper, you'll stay opened in the sticky or opened in the simple view. Teresa asked if we are or will be integrating with Zapier. For example, if we click a done button, a Slack will update automatically. The answer is we do have an integration with Zapier. It does not yet support that functionality. Although if you are looking for a way to notify a team member, for example, when a certain part of your close is complete, I would be remiss if I didn't mention close status notifications. So this button right here, this is your close status. So right now, DemoCo is stuck in June 2022. But let's say we wanted to move it to ready for manager review or reviewed, and then we wanted that to notify the assigned manager. If we go to our practice settings here, and then we go to practice and statements and tasks, and then close status options, this column here, notifications, will choose who gets notified when that close moves into an assigned stage. So when it's ready for manager review, we're going to ping the reviewer, and then the reviewer will get an email as soon as DemoCo gets moved to ready for manager review. But that said, we are continuing to improve upon our Zapier integration so that if you don't want these to go to your inbox, you want something else more complicated to happen, that support will definitely eventually be added to our ever-growing Zapier integration. Someone asked, is this software only for clients that use QBO? The answer is no. You do have what we call non-QBO clients. So this would be an example of one of those. It's still going to have all of your file review it's still going to have all of your task management capabilities, all your client communication capabilities, all of your internal chat capabilities. But if it is not connected to QuickBooks or not connected to Xero, then you won't have the ability to pull in transaction information, pull in vendor information, pull in financial statements, run management reporting, track KPIs. Any of the stuff that relies upon the connection to the ledger won't be available in your non-QBO clients. Greg asked if receipts are removed from the client inbox if we attach them to a transaction. The answer is yes. Okay, so I see two questions that are sort of similar, asking about what happens when you sort of roll to a new year. So what happens when you sort of finish your 2022 or your 1099s and it's time to go to 2023. So let me go back to a QBO connected client and I will show you. Okay. So the first thing to note is this year-to-date spend is going to immediately reset. So if you're in December 2022, that is going to calculate all of your year-to-date spend for January through December. If you are in January 2023, that is only going to calculate your year-to-date spend for January of 2023. Second is, as far as 1099 needed, yes, no, and unknown, these values are going to stay fixed. And so 1099 needed, recommend checking this or like making this on the basis of whether or not certain properties about the way you spend money with that vendor or certain properties about the vendor, which are sort of finite and fixed, continue to be the case. So I wouldn't mark this as no if you only spent $550 for them. I would mark this as no if they're a C Corp or if they're an inventory supplier and you really only buy products from them, never services. So they're never going to be eligible for receiving a 1099. So this value is going to stay tied to that vendor so that when you start 2023, all your vendors who you've marked 1099 needed equals no, they're still going to be in this 1099 not needed list. And then this last one, which is 2022 filed, that is going to be tied to the year. So next year, you'll see a 2023 filed column, and you can mark those appropriately as necessary. Tyler also asked if it prompts you to request a new W-9 each year. It does not. That is definitely something that a few folks have started to ask about. So something we're looking into is basically your sort of like frequency of W-9 requests. So right now, it's just going to indicate whether or not you have that on file, and then you can pop in and check and see if you want to request a new W-9 for that as well. Someone asked, how can you switch a connected client from QBO to Xero? Right into Sport, and we will have to take a closer look at what you need done there. Someone asked, is there a way to assign multiple people to close status notifications? There is not at this time, although that is an interesting feature request. Tyler asked that, and Nicole also asked that. So immediately 2 votes on the canny. And Taylor asked that. So 3 votes on the canny. Okay, I'm sensing a theme. Joy asked, is Xero out of beta? I must have missed this notice. You did not, although you should check your email for the next couple of weeks, is all I have to say about that. An anonymous attendee asked, if we attach a file to a task and set it to recur, will the file stay attached to each recurrence? It will not. So it'll just be tied to that particular task. Greg asked, how close are we to fiscal year ends being able to be handled differently? So for clients with non-calendar fiscal years, the answer is close, which is by no means precise, but it is definitely something that's on our near-term 2023 roadmap. Kate asked, how do I resolve or archive non-transaction questions that the client did not respond to in Keeper? And so the answer is you go to your non-transaction questions. This, by the way, is the same way you resolve answered questions as well. And you click this checkbox right here. So if we do that, I'll move it to resolved. And which one I just. Anyways, so that's how you mark it as resolved. Stephen asked, what does BKX mean? It's a great question. BKX is a conference in June where a lot of our customers go and where we also sponsor a karaoke party, among other things. So it's always a fun time. It's in Dallas this year. We will very much be there, and we hope to see you, Stephen, and others as well. Okay, Katie also asked, so we got 4 people here who want to be able to have multiple people assigned to those closed status notifications. So Shane, if you wouldn't mind writing that down, we will take care of that. Catherine asked if there are any plans for adding integrations with other GL software in addition to QBO and Xero. Definitely in the long term. Right now, our core focus is getting Xero up and running, which has turned out to be, we've actually done quite a lot of stuff that integrates with QBO, and replicating all of that stuff with Xero is no small feat. But the long-term vision for Keeper is we want to give you a tool to run the same exact closing process, regardless of where the underlying debits and credits sit. So definitely plan to add other support for other ledgers. Nicole asked if we're going to be creating an option to mark 1099s as NEC versus MISC. Not in the next 12 hours, but definitely for the next filing season. Sabrina asked if we have any Keeper swag. The answer is no, and like not even for our own employees. We should, we need to, but like literally no one has anything that says Keeper on it except for the cows. If you've been to a trade show of ours, so we should definitely get some, but we have not yet. Although fortunately we are adding some bandwidth for things like that. So I'm going to talk to our new operations associate about that. Okay, an anonymous attendee asked, I am tracking projects for a client. Can that section be added to uncategorized transactions? The answer is also yes. If you go back to your client file settings and you turn on customers or projects, that will not only give you that column here on any of your reports. So if we just go ahead and pop into a report here, you can see customer is now a field that you can set. And then the other thing is you will also get a new report here, which is your transactions that don't have an assigned project. Expenses without customers. And then you can further refine this and say, I only want this to be within the COGS accounts, for example, rather than every single account here. Kate asked if you can assign a transaction question to more than one person. The answer is not at this time. If you have assignable questions enabled, then every question can be assigned to exactly one person in the client portal. Although it sounds like from this call, we may have to expand that and expand the close status notifications. Katie says she has a promo item person if I need a referral. I do very much need a referral. So Katie, if you wouldn't mind, send me that link and I would love to take you up on that. All right, and an anonymous attendee asked, can my client change the account in the client portal? The answer is no. So they can just respond, give an answer, and then you change it in Keeper. Someone asked if there is any chance that we will be allowing the same email to be attached to multiple Keeper accounts for those who subcontract for other bookkeeping firms. The answer is that's definitely yes. Like that's definitely something that caught us completely off guard, but it's definitely something that we're highly aware of and working on a better solution for. So for those who are not familiar with what Ali's mentioning, that's like how in QuickBooks you can like switch the company that you're in. So same basic concept, but in Keeper. Colleen asked, is there any way our clients can click something that says they've read something we've written so that we can resolve it? So a good example here would be in the client portal. If they ask you a question and they say, hey, we're thinking about adding health insurance, what factors we consider, and then you give them an answer. How they can basically respond to that without responding to it is they can click mark it as closed. So you can click that, and then that will mark it as closed. And then you won't see it in your list of open questions for clients anymore. Ty asked if we can send W9 vendor requests to more than one email address. Not at this time. Okay, Shana, did I miss anything from the chat?
There were just two. I slacked them to you from a bit back. Cindy asked about, can attachments be added to reconciled transactions? That's the first one.
And the answer to that is yes. Yeah, you should be able to.
And second one is from Carol. Can I use white label for only one or two clients versus all of them?
The answer is no. So if you turn on white label, it turns it on at the practice level. So for all of your clients. Tyler asked if we were going to address the most recently marked in progress task in Canny, and no, the answer is I have no intention of addressing that until we release it. I guess implicitly that makes me address it. But for those of you who are not looped in on what Tyler and I are talking about, go follow the Canny, just like sort in descending order by most voted.
If you could also, I can't put this in the chat, but I have a feature request for assign multiple people to close status notifications. I added 2 people that I noticed had asked to upvote that, but if anyone else wants to upvote it, it is now a public feature and you guys can check it in the chat.
All right, folks, that's in the chat as well. Carrie asked if there's an easy training for our customers on how to learn to use the client portal on their end. So how to keep an icon on their desktop or something. The answer is yes. I send a link here. For clients experience in the portal. So one is, this is definitely a good link to have handy for what your clients will experience when they go to the portal. And the other is you can also send them this link, which is sort of a intuit, like a step-by-step walkthrough that they can use. All right. It looks like those are all of the questions that we've got here today. So I will give people another, I don't know, 30 or so seconds, T-minus, to ask any further questions before we go ahead and call it for this month's Catch Up with Keeper webinar. Okay, Sky asked if there's any chance we can review the process of excluding transactions from the 1099 report one more time. So happy to do that. In the Prepare 1099s report, there's 2 ways to exclude transactions. The first is if you want to exclude all transactions of a certain set of properties, you can go here to your excluded list within that report. Every reports can have an excluded list, and this one's no exception. So if you say, let me exclude everything in PayPal, exclude everything in like this trust liability account, for example, you can add all of those right here, and then that's going to auto filter them out. If you still see transactions that should be excluded, you can click the exclude button here, and you're going to see exclude from 1099 spend, and then you can click confirm, and that's going to exclude that transaction. So we can see this doesn't update just yet. If you click rerun report, that's going to bump down from 48 to 24. If we go to our all vendor transactions, we can see this one has been excluded. Lastly, if we want to re-include it, like that was a mistake, we click confirm, and that will re-include it here. And then again, rerun report, 48,000. Greg asked, are these webinars archived somewhere? This is a question I get regularly, and the answer is yes. So in our help center, if you go to Catch Up with Keeper webinars, I'm going to throw this in the chat as well. That is where all prior webinars live. And then once this one, we get it live, takes a day or 2, it will live here as well. And then we'll also link out to the relevant things that we updated. So if you don't want to waste your time on the phone with me here every last Tuesday of the month, you can always pop over here and get your updates that way as well. Someone asked about a particular error. I would say if you have like a particular error, please write into the chat so we can take a look at what's going on. Otherwise, I am not going to be equipped with the tools I need to solve it on this particular webinar. Someone else asked if we plan to integrate with QB desktop. The answer is yes, but it is not like on the immediate roadmap. And when I say immediate roadmap, just so that people understand what I'm talking about, we don't plan like 2 years in advance. We plan like anywhere from like 2 weeks to 3 months in advance, sort of a balance between actually knowing what we're doing and what we're marching towards and being able to communicate that to people. And then also being able to be flexible. I think one of the things that's been really important to us is actually listening to our customers. But if we had this premature, like pre-built 2-year roadmap, then we wouldn't be able to listen to our customers because we'd just be building to this roadmap. So QB desktop, definitely something we want to support. It's not on the immediate roadmap right now.
On that note, can you, Alicia asked in the chat if you could speak to what Canny is and sort of how to use it, just for people that aren't familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. Canny is the most amazing, wonderful way to give us feedback and tell us what you find important. And so here you can see all of the things that people have asked for, hundreds of things. Pretty soon this will be thousands of things. And we look at this every single week at the very least, and most times every single day. And so we can see what are things people are asking for. And then we can sort of group them together so we can see what are maybe related things that we could work on together so that we can make our engineering time efficient. What are really important problems to solve. So you can see, you can sort this in a bunch of different ways. You can check out client portal improvements, final review improvements, Zapier improvements. So lots of different things in here, but this boils down to if there's something you want to see improved in Keeper, this is the place to go and make your voice heard, because we definitely have our ears finely tuned to this. Also, to that note, and Ronaldson is gonna grill me for this if I don't mention, you can do this directly from Keeper. So if you click the chat icon in the bottom right-hand corner, this, by the way, is like everything you want is here. You can write us a message here. You can go to our help center here. You can also access Canny here. So if you click here, this is that same list. Right in here, just right here in Keeper. So if you're like, this is something I'd like to see made better while you're using Keeper, just pop in here, search for it. Almost certainly it exists. If it doesn't, you can also add it. And then also Help Center right here as well, a little bit searchable. So depending on your preference, you can get there too. Okay, Carissa asked, for the client portal, do you have to log into each client to see what's open, or is there a main inbox where you can see all open items across all clients? Great question. And this is the answer. This client portal column is where you can see what your clients have still outstanding, what your clients have answered. So here, for example, we can see DemoCo has answered one of our 7 questions. And so that's this one non-transaction question. They've uploaded a file here. They've also asked us a question here as well, but we've responded to it. And so this means we have 1 answered of 7, and this means that we have no open unanswered questions from our clients. So this is how you can see that at the whole client list level. You can also filter this list. So you can say, show me what clients have asked me questions. In this case, we don't have anyone who's asked me any questions we haven't answered. We can also see, show me who's answered all their questions, who's answered any of their questions, or who's answered none of their questions as well. Okay, and I think a good one to end on. Thank you, anonymous attendee. Someone asked if it hurts to be this awesome. No, it is truly our pleasure to serve y'all every single day. It really, I mean, to the extent that y'all enjoy what you see in Keeper, you are directly responsible for it. So this comes back to what I said in Canny. This comes back to why we do these webinars. It's all about how can we make Keeper the best solution for you to streamline your close, to communicate better with your clients, get more time back in your day, understand what books need to be done and what tasks need to be done when. So please do keep letting us know how we can keep pushing the frontier, how we can keep making Keeper better for you. It is truly our honor to be able to support our thousands of customers. All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and draw this webinar to a close. So thank you all so much for taking the time. As a reminder, these webinars, Melissa asked just in time, these webinars are stored in our Help Center. You can go to our Help Center, which is help.keeper.app, and you can search for Catch Up with Keeper webinars or Catch Up or anything, and it will point you to this page. And these are always the last Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. Central. So we will hopefully see you at the next one. If not, you can find us always here. All right, folks. Have a good one. Have a good rest of your January 31st. Hope it is an easy remainder of 1099 season.